So to as a quick reminder for people that either aren't going to see the movie or have seen it already, it essentially a fictionalized retelling of the life of Jesus that culminates in him being crucified, as is in all of the Gospels, in our understanding of the Passion narrative, at which point he is taunted by, one interpretation would be the devil or an evil spirit that basically says, if you are Jesus, get down. Like, you can end this. You don't have to follow through with getting crucified. You could show your power to everyone and end this. And so he does. He gets down off the cross. And what follows is an extended sequence in which Jesus lives out his life and grows old and has a family. And the pivotal point, or the closing climactic moment of the movie, is when Jesus, having not died, having not been crucified, as an old man with a family, suddenly realizes what the cost of that is and has this moment of epiphany that, no, Christ has to die. And so either he literally grew to be old and then time traveled back and hops back up on the cross and he's crucified and dies, or what I think is a more reasonable reading of the film is that is a long vision that he's having on the cross, playing that out in his mind, and comes to the realization that no, this is more important than any fleshly desires that I might have. I am Christ, and this has to happen as is the plan, as was prophesied. So we cut back, and he's on the cross, and he says the famous line, "Why have you forsaken me?" And he gives up his life and he dies, and is resurrected.
Oh, I feel so much better hearing you describe that as a potential dream sequence and not depicted as a real thing.
Despite that, we still watch Jesus do something that we have internalized as not how the story goes.
Yeah. But there's lots of that throughout the
there is
entire
lots.
movie.
From the very beginning of the film, we see that Jesus, who we know was a carpenter, or more likely, if we understand that, given the context of where he was living and his life, he was probably more like what we would understand as a stonemason. But in this film, we see him, we meet him for the first time in the film, played by the great Willem Dafoe, building crosses for the Romans.
Yeah. And being a part, that first scene where he's actually assembling a cross up at Golgotha, I would imagine. Yeah. And the
That's his job.
Scene is he's shoving the crossbar into the vertical piece, and the centurions are hammering the nail into the victim's hand, and blood just spurts all over Jesus' face. I nearly hurled at that point. I thought, please, I don't have 3 hours of this to watch. Surely, John T. I was like, bleh. I couldn't. It was just like, it was too much. But it was interesting that he was depicted as the crucifix maker.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. Yeah. And I'm sure, again, this was a novel, I'm sure that having not read the novel, in the film it's just kind of shown that that's what he's doing. I'm sure in the novel there's more behind what he's doing there and why, and the context behind that, and maybe the reason why that it's chosen that that's Jesus' job, basically.
Isn't it interesting how I just accidentally said crucifix maker? He actually is the crucifix maker.
Yes.
But not only in this movie, but even biblically, because he chose to be crucified. So he made that a thing. He made that happen. He made it happen.
And there's a sense of inevitability about it.
Yeah.
That's underlined by the fact that he's actually one of the pairs of hands making these things physically. He's a part of the machine that then he gives himself over to be killed.
The violence of it.
Yeah.
It's like being an electric chair maker.
And then getting executed by electric chair. Yeah.
Or the administer of lethal injection person. Whoever that medical person is that has to do that. It's pretty disgusting, really, isn't it?